Today we're going over royal deaths so bizarre that the historians who study them for a living, the people whose entire job is to explain the past, just throw up their hands and admit they have no idea what really happened. And I don't mean some king who caught a fever and quietly slipped away in his sleep. I'm talking about a warlord who survived 1,000 battles and then drowned in his own blood on his wedding night, a conqueror whose body flat out refused to rot for 6 days, and a queen whose famous murder weapon may never have existed at all. Let's get into it. Number 1. Attila the Hun, the man nobody could kill, who died in bed. It's the spring of the year 453, somewhere in the grasslands of what is now Hungary, and the most feared man on earth is throwing himself a wedding. This is Attila, the scourge of God, the warlord who terrorized 2 Roman empires and made them pay him more than 2,000 pounds of gold every single year just to leave him alone. Tonight, he is marrying a young woman named Ildiko. There is a feast. There is an absolute ocean of wine. And Attila, who is somewhere around 47 years old, drinks like a man who has never once worried about the morning. The next morning, he's dead. His guards wait outside the bridal chamber. Hours pass. By the afternoon, the silence feels wrong, so they break down the door, and what they find makes no sense. Attila is flat on his back, not a wound anywhere on him, blood everywhere, and his brand new bride is sitting against the wall, veiled and weeping and saying nothing. Our one real source for this is a Roman diplomat named Priscus, who had actually sat and eaten dinner with Attila, and his account tells us the warlord was prone to nosebleeds. Lying on his back, dead drunk, the blood that should have run out of his nose ran back down his throat instead, and the man 2 armies couldn't touch quietly drowned inside himself. Sit with that for a second. By this point, Attila had burned his way clear across northern Italy, sacked one city after another, and turned back from the gates of Rome itself, only after a face-to-face meeting with the Pope. He had outlasted assassins, rival kings, and the combined armies of the entire civilized world. And then, a quiet bedroom and a few cups too many finished the job that no enemy on a battlefield ever managed. And here's where it gets really interesting. Not everyone believed the nosebleed. Another account, written decades later, says it was no accident at all, that Ildiko murdered him on their wedding night, and that version was so good it survived all the way into the Norse sagas. Others whispered that the Eastern Roman emperor, who had every reason on earth to want Attila gone, had quietly arranged the whole thing. No wound, no proof, no investigation, just a dead king and a silent bride. It's like the single most wanted man on the planet, the one entire armies could never bring down, finally getting taken out by a bad nosebleed at his own bachelor party. His warriors mourned him by cutting open their own faces, on the logic that a man like Attila should be wept for in blood and not in women's tears, which is either deeply moving or deeply on brand, depending on how you feel about the Huns. Number 2. Alexander the Great, the corpse that forgot to decompose. It's June 323 BC, inside the ancient palace of Nebuchadnezzar in the city of Babylon. Alexander is 32 years old. He has conquered very nearly the entire known world, from Greece all the way to the edge of India. He has never lost a battle in his life, and right now he is flat on his back in bed, unable to stand, unable to speak, dying in front of his own generals, and not one of them can tell him why. About 2 weeks earlier, he had been at a banquet thrown by a friend, drained a massive bowl of wine, and felt a sudden stabbing pain. 12 days of fever and agony followed. Then it gets strange. He dies, and his body is left lying there in the brutal heat of Babylon, and for 6 full days it shows no sign of decay, no smell, no bloating, nothing. To his soldiers, who already half believed he was the literal son of a god, this was the proof. Historians have spent the centuries since arguing over what actually killed him. Some say malaria or typhoid from the filthy, mosquito-ridden river water. Some say his own drinking finally destroyed him from the inside. And some say poison, pointing out that his closest friends suspected it the moment he fell ill, and that strangely, nobody else in the city got sick, which is not how a disease is supposed to work. The finger got pointed at his old teacher's circle back in Greece, and at the young nobleman who poured his wine that very night. And the suspicion only deepened with what came next. Within a single year, his generals had turned on each other, and the largest empire the world had ever seen was hacked apart by his closest friends, none of whom could even agree on who he had actually left it to. And here's the part that genuinely unsettles people. One modern theory says the reason the body didn't rot is the simplest and the worst answer possible. He wasn't dead yet. A creeping paralysis could have shut his body down while leaving him fully conscious, slowing his breathing so faintly that his own doctors looked at a living man and pronounced him gone. Picture being so completely paralyzed you can't even blink, while a room full of people calmly decides you've died and starts making the arrangements. 23 centuries later, with every tool modern medicine owns, the most honest thing we can say about how the greatest conqueror in history died is probably something, possibly while still watching. Number 3. Cleopatra, and the murder weapon that may never have existed. It's August 30 BC in Alexandria. Cleopatra, the very last pharaoh of Egypt, 39 years old, has sealed herself inside her own mausoleum. Mark Antony is already dead. Her navy is gone. Octavian, the man who is about to rename himself Augustus and become the first Roman emperor, has just taken her city, and he wants her alive because nothing would top off his victory parade back in Rome like the Queen of the Nile dragged through the streets in golden chains. She has other plans. When his soldiers finally force the doors, they find her dead on a golden couch in full royal regalia, a crown on her head, and her 2 handmaidens dying on the floor beside her. The story everyone knows is the snake, an asp, an Egyptian cobra, smuggled into her in a basket of figs, pressed to her skin one last time. Here is the problem. Almost no expert today actually believes it. An Egyptian cobra runs 5 to 8 feet long, so good luck hiding one in a lunch basket. Cobra bites are slow and unreliable. They often don't kill at all, and when they do, it can take hours of suffering. And yet all 3 women died quickly and cleanly and close together. And no snake was ever found in that room. The only hint of one was a faint trail in the sand outside, supposedly leading down toward the sea. And there's a detail that makes the whole thing even stranger. Octavian was reportedly furious when he heard. He had wanted her alive above almost anything, paraded through Rome as the living centerpiece of his triumph, and with one final, perfectly timed act, she had robbed him of his greatest trophy. And here's the thing, even the ancient writers weren't sure. The earliest one hedged his bets and wrote that it was either a snake or a poison ointment. Another simply admitted, in writing, that the truth was nobody actually knew, and that there wasn't a single mark of poison anywhere on her body. The leading modern guess is that she drank a fast, clean cocktail of hemlock, wolfsbane, and opium, the kind of controlled, dignified exit that fits a famously meticulous queen far better than betting her final moment on the mood of a wild animal. A few historians go further and argue she didn't choose at all, that Octavian had her quietly killed and then sold the world a beautiful, tragic, romantic suicide. It's like the most famous true crime case in human history, except the weapon, the motive, and even the question of whether it was murder are all still wide open 2,000 years later. The most iconic death in the ancient world, and the snake, the one detail every single person remembers, is probably the one part that never happened. Number 4. Genghis Khan, the most powerful man alive who simply vanished. It's the summer of 1227. Genghis Khan, born Temujin, the man who built the largest connected empire the world has ever seen, a thing stretching from the Pacific Ocean all the way to the doorstep of Europe, is on campaign in northern China, grinding down a kingdom called Western Xia. He is somewhere in his 60s. And right there, at the absolute peak of his power, he dies. Nobody knows how. The oldest Mongol record of his life gives us exactly one line about it. In the year of the boar, he ascended to heaven. That is the entire account. No cause, no deathbed scene, nothing. So later writers rushed in to fill the silence, and they filled it with everything. He fell off his horse on a hunt. An old arrow wound to the knee turned fatal. He caught a fever, maybe typhus, maybe even the plague. And one grim legend, told by the very people he was busy conquering, claims a captured princess took her revenge on him in the night. In a way, I will let you fill in for yourself. Every version contradicts the last, and not one of them was written by anyone who was actually there. And this is the maddening part. This is a man we can otherwise describe in almost obsessive detail. His empire eventually covered something like 12 million square miles. Studies suggest that today, roughly 1 in every 200 men on the planet may carry a piece of his DNA. We can map his conquests city by city, year by year. We just cannot say what stopped his heart. But the wildest part isn't how he died. It's what happened afterward. His body was carried home to Mongolia in total deliberate secrecy, and the location of his grave was hidden so completely that 800 years later, with satellites and ground radar and every modern trick we have, we still cannot find it. The legends say 1,000 horses were driven back and forth across the spot to pound it flat into nothing, and that the funeral escort killed everyone they passed on the road home, so the route could never be traced. We can't prove the body count, but the result speaks for itself. The grave of the man who conquered a quarter of the planet is genuinely, completely lost, somewhere on a sacred mountain that an entire nation now guards by law. Imagine the single most famous person on Earth today dying. And then, their body, their grave, their whole final location getting scrubbed off the map so thoroughly that no technology anyone invents for the next 8 centuries can ever find them. He conquered the world, and his last move was to disappear from it on purpose. So, there you have it. 4 royal deaths that the experts, after centuries of trying, still genuinely cannot explain. Attila survived everything 2 Roman empires could throw at him, and then died of a nosebleed in his own bed. Alexander conquered the entire known world and then refused to rot. Maybe because he wasn't actually finished dying yet. Cleopatra's legendary snake is most likely the one weapon that was never even in the room. And Genghis Khan ruled a quarter of the earth and then deleted his own grave from it. 4 of the most powerful, most documented human beings who ever lived. We know how many soldiers they commanded, what they ate at dinner, who they married, the precise year the world bent because of them. And the one thing not a single one of them could command, the one moment that comes for everybody eventually, is the exact part that history managed to lose. Funny how that works. The bigger the life, the darker the blank space they leave at the very end of it.